Ms. Bowler,
Here.
Dr. Bradbury,
Here.
Ms. Laredo,
Here.
Dr. Noland,
Here.
Ms. Prado,
Here.
Dr. Solicito is absent today. Ms. Berber,
Here.
we have a quorum.
Thank you, Jessica. And I wanted to say, unfortunately, Dr. Solicito was going to be joining us this week, but she came down ill earlier in the week and was going to try to join virtually, but still isn't feeling that great. So we wish her well. Today we're going to switch the agenda just slightly again to bring the administrative report, which is 16A up front, because we have our budget representatives here again, Karen Munoz and Veronica Hernandez. And so I will turn it over to Tim Rada, who will present the report.
All right, thank you. I do have a brief update on my staff update. Things did not go quite as planned, and our receptionist did not accept the position. She backed out and accepted another position at another state agency. So we are in the process of reposting that position, which will be posted for another 10 days. And once that is closed, I will interview the available candidates. We are still looking for the reg position for the blood banks that were part of that bill. Again, this is a limited term position, so the applicant pool is generally smaller because people are looking for a permanent position. So once I get an acceptable applicant pool for that, I'll interview our best qualified. And
Jim, can I ask you a quick question on the blood bank person? Where's that on the org chart?
it is under Jeff. It's vacant. It's under administration.
Under Jeff over here.
AGPA.
I got it. I knew it was one of the vacancies. I just wasn't sure which one. Thank you.
Yep, and I'll update the org chart to reflect our receptionist being vacant as well. And with that, I'll turn it over to our budgets. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Morning.
Good morning. Those mics may or may not be on.
And I see a green light, so it should be good. All right. Good morning. My name is Veronica Hernandez, and I'm the budget analyst for VetMed with the DCA Budget Office. I'd like to thank the board and the executive staff for allowing me a few minutes to present today. I'll be talking about the expenditure projections as well as the board's fund condition statement, and I'll be able to answer any questions that the board may have. At this time, I'd like you to please refer to pages 4 and 5 of agenda item 16A. Those are the documents I'm going to be discussing. First, I'm going to start with the board's expenditure projections, which is page 4. The department was able to close 2021-22 fiscal year in September. So these documents you're looking at now show what the close of the fiscal landed, where the board landed as of the close of the fiscal year. For some clarity, we're going to be reviewing the expenditure report. The top half of the document is the board's personnel services, and followed by the board's operating expenses. The green column is prior year. On this document, prior year is 2020-2021. The blue column is budget, which is 21-22. And the orange column is the projections to year end, which for this document is the actuals of 21-22. As we focus to the bottom of the document, you'll see that the board had an appropriation of just over $7 million and spent a total of $5.8 million, creating a reversion to the board's fund of just over $2.1 million, or 17.09%. The next document I'll be going over now is on page 5, which is the board's fund condition statement. As a reminder, we read this document from top to bottom and left to right. I'll go over a little further in detail just for some clarity. The left column is the board's prior year, which is 2021-22 actuals. It shows the board began 2021-22 with adjusted beginning balance of $5 million. collected close to $8.2 million in revenue and expended approximately $5.6 million in direct expenditures, plus an additional $459,000 in direct draws, which are statewide expenses such as supplemental pension, statewide pro rata, and for that, the total expenses was just over $6 million. The board ended 2021-22 with just over $7.1 million in reserve balance, or about 11.1 months in reserve. Months in reserve is the amount of time the board can continue normal operations without any incoming revenues. The 7.1 reserve then moves to the top of the next column of the fund condition and becomes the begin balance for the current year, which is 2022-23. For current year, the board's revenue and expenditures are projected at Budget Act. The Budget Office is currently still working on current year and budget year incremental adjustments, and will update these projections as we get closer to the release of the governor's budget, which happens in January 2023. The board's fund remains stable at this time, projecting a healthy 9.6 months in reserve by the end of 2025-26. The Budget Office will continue to monitor the board's revenue and expenditures and report back to the board with monthly expenditure projections as we begin closing fiscal months in the current fiscal year. A few things to remember. The fund condition is a snapshot in time. One of the main factors driving expenditure increases in future years is a result of personal service adjustments. These include general salary increases, as well as employee compensation and retirement rate adjustments. The Budget Office includes an ongoing 3% increase to expenditures on the fund condition statement to account for these ongoing incremental adjustments. The fund condition does not include increased enforcement expenditures, which could create additional cost pressures to the board's fund in out years. Funds will traditionally show a decrease in months in reserve due to the conservative projection method displayed in the fund condition. Expenditures are projected with an ongoing 3% increase, and revenue remains stagnant. Lastly, we'd like to note to the board that any future legislation or unanticipated events could result in the board's need for additional resources, which could increase pressure on the fund. Budget Office will continue to monitor the board's fund condition and keep a line of communication with the board executive staff open for future needs. Again, thank you very much for allowing me to speak today, and I welcome any questions.
Thank you. Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you very much. I had one question on the expenditure projection report. I should remember this after all these years, but we have a surplus in CP services internal. Looks like projected surplus for year end of $382,000. What is that? I can't remember what elements are in there. I should know.
Can you help me with that?
I mean, we don't have a lot of vacancies, so I didn't think it was. I didn't know what our spending is lower, but I'm not sure why.
So, when we moved into fiscal, if it's the report you're looking at does not show what's under internal right now, and AG is in there. So if any surplus is to Attorney General's, that's going to be in there.
Oh, AG. Oh, you're right.
We will, in the future, when we provide you the report, we will unhide that so you can see your AG and OAH costs.
That's what was missing.
Yes,
I
that's
knew
the
something
missing
was
part.
missing here. I thought this looked very clean and nice, but I thought, aren't we missing some line
That's
items?
those are the two that we usually unhide because it's always a question, but this time, because of the final document, this is your fiscal month 13 actuals, it was hidden fully.
All right, so some of that is attributable to our savings in the AG
Correct.
world, which we have. Okay, that explains it. And the external that has gone over is what? I mean, it's not over that much, but.
External costs, external contracts,
like
it's external
DCA
contracts
costs
basically. So anything in CNP external is, it could be any PSI or any, I'm not sure what specific contract set that the board has, but it's usually the contracts that the board goes into that there's a potential that we aren't initially budgeted for, but as long as we stay within our appropriation, it's fine. So usually it's CNP external or any external contracts.
Okay, and like Breeze, is that an information technology?
There is
Or is
a
there a
portion of Breeze costs that do fall in CNP external. That would be any credit card.
Oh, that's,
So Elevon and American Express falls within CNP external, and then you'll see the rest of it in IT.
okay, thank you. Those were my only questions. Turning to other board members. Jennifer Laredo.
I had a question. Also on page 4 on the reporting structure, it references the Veterinary Medical Board and the Registered Vet Tech Exam Committee. And as far as I know, we don't have that anymore. Is that just something that we keep on there historically?
Interesting, yeah. It's got a code number, too.
It's just a code that is in Fiscal. We can run the report. When we run VetMed, we just make sure that we capture all codes that fall within. We can run it for you guys later just to show that if it doesn't exist, that there's no costs that are falling within that. But when we run the report, this is how it ultimately is generated, and so that title is there.
So it's just a dormant.
Yeah, we just want to make sure that we capture everything within the fund, and so that is one of the reporting structures that existed. And so
Probably be worth running to make sure.
But we can
it's
run it
zero.
to make sure, but it's usually within just the one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is Fiscal completely final now and working for you all?
Yeah,
And you're
for the accounting side, if things fall behind or if there's an error, it might hold up closing a month, but we're pretty close to how we were in the past with CalSTAR. So we're closing months right around the 15th. It just takes a little bit of time at the end of a fiscal year to get those documents closed, and then we start closing. Fiscal month 1 and fiscal month 2 close within a week or two. And then we're really close to closing fiscal month 3, which is on time.
Okay, terrific. Any other questions? Christina, Dr. Bradbury.
I just, when we were talking about on page 4, the fund balance or the overage, I had said 2.1 million, and I just am wondering, was that just a verbal, is it really 1.2?
Sorry, let me take a look here. Hold on. The report.
Because at the end here, it has 1.2, like 1,201,000.
Which line item? I'm sorry.
Well, you were just going over the chart on page 4, and then you said
Oh, the 1.2, I see.
And you had just said 2.1, and I just didn't know if maybe you had switched that.
Yep, I apologize. You're absolutely right.
Okay.
I said
Yeah,
that
no
wrong.
worries. Thank you.
Yeah. Actually, I was running, trying to run a quick Hubert report right now just for the vet tech, just to show that it's, well, you won't be able to see what I'm doing, but to show that it's 0,
Okay,
just to make sure.
all right. But that was a good catch, Jennifer. 'Cause I wasn't even looking up there. Do any other board members have questions? Dr. Noland up there, sorry. Can barely see your hand.
Yeah, in the blue sky, yeah.
In the sky, yeah, it's like a little sun up there.
Well, I just, I guess, would like to
I can't see it on here.
dream a little bit right now, because I think as you look at the projections through the 23-24 year, all the way to 25-26, I think it's possible that the renewal fees, since we're starting to see more veterinarians and RVTs licensed, et cetera, it could be that those are fairly conservative and we have a pretty good cushion right now. So in a perfect world, if we ever got so far ahead that we really had to do something, what is that so far ahead that we could actually start reducing fees, especially for RVTs, instead of increasing? Is there a month in reserve that we hit consecutively for a year or two that we then can start looking at reducing fees? I know that's optimistic, but I just wanted to bring it up.
So in statute, our reserve should not be over 10 months in reserve. But keep in mind, so that's really what you want to look at is how many years are you going over that number, and if you are projected to either stay the same or go down. So right now you look at how we're decreasing, and again, it's not reflecting any pending or future BCPs. So if we need more staff, if we need to increase inspections, increase costs that way and get BCPs, that wouldn't be projected here. But I would say for the next a couple of years, looking at if we're staying at or above that 10-month mark, that's when we would look at reducing. So if this number, instead of slightly declining, it starts to slightly increase every year, especially when it comes to the actuals, that's when we need to look at reducing fees. Right now, I think it's something that we're monitoring closely, but again, we all know that we still need to do more for enforcement, more for inspections, pay our inspectors more, our enforcement, subject matter experts more. So those are costs that I anticipate coming, but it's definitely something, my goal has always been to reduce fees. So I hope to get there one day. Right now, I don't think we're there yet.
Great, I thank you for that.
Any other questions, Maria? I haven't seen a hand, so just Diana. Nope.
I just want to, Karen, I don't know if you were listening yesterday, but I did a shout out to you and to Christine Lally and Taylor Schick for all the work that you guys did to get our out-of-state travel through.
Oh, nice.
I mean, when I put all that paperwork to you and you turned it around in a day, and Taylor pushed it through, like, you guys were awesome. We couldn't have done it without you, so I just wanted to thank you for that.
Thank you.
And again, from a board perspective, that travel was so important for our board, for consumers in California, and for our voice to be heard at that conference. It is just really critical, particularly since we have the largest licensee population in the country. To not be able to be at the meeting is and I was there virtually for little bits of time, but they don't allow virtual, it's not the same. So the fact that Jessica was there and Dr. Sullivan was there was tremendously important for the state. So I just want to thank you guys and thank you and we will probably be doing this in the future if it comes up again.
Good.
Thank you.
Happy. And I just wanted to thank you so much. But I wanted to just address the question on the vet techs, why they're showing up there. For the Attorney General's office and for those things, we identify it's still the same fund, but it's separated for specific classifications. And so we are seeing so when AG does it, it's separated those costs. So there are some costs that are coming through for the vet techs opposed to like just the Veterinary Medical Board. And it's really just to identify and separate where these you're seeing these enforcement needs, but it is still under the same fund, so it's just a separation of those costs. So there is, and that's why we capture all reporting structures under the same fund, so it shows, but it is still just the Veterinary Medical Board.
Okay, thank you. And Jennifer, you heard all that, I hope.
I heard it. I'm a little confused because it specifically says the Registered Vet Tech Exam Committee. So I understand that we're separating them by maybe which license classification. It's just the name that causes confusion because that was at one time a committee that's no longer active.
So that could be something, just the title itself was never updated with the AG's office or with us. And so, because that was like years and years and years ago. Whenever the committee went away and the MDC became a thing, that's when that title could have changed. Or we could just, I could reach out to the AG's office and see if there's a way to have them
do it,
change it, to update it. But it's really just
did an update, and so I can reach out and make that change today if you guys want me to. I can send that out and just put all. If you want me to just
putting it all under one.
Yep, that's much easier anyway. But so if that's what you guys. I could send that out today.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And so I don't see that we have any more questions for you. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
I know you have other boards to get to and report to, but thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Back to the regular main administration report. Tim, I don't know if,
Yes, just a quick update on a Breeze implementation that went through, allowing our managing licensees and veterinarians to claim and associate and disassociate premises and VACSPs through their Breeze accounts. So that's a big quality of life improvement we see on our end and for the veterinarians themselves to quickly, get premises under their names, get VACSPs under their names, and when they leave, to disassociate those VACSPs.
was there, I assume the Breeze made it easier online, but was there a different kind of process that was more cumbersome in the past?
It was
where it required them
yeah.
signing off on things and you getting signed forms?
It was a paper form that would need to be mailed to our office, or they would email to our office, and staff would need to attach it to each file, each candidate and licensed veterinarian file. So it was a pretty cumbersome process for the number of VACSPs that were being associated and disassociated each year.
Yeah, I remember when I started, this was one where it was like literally a huge stack of paperwork that was sitting there for staff to just, when they got to it, they could get to it, but it wasn't a priority of staff. So it was just sitting there waiting for people to associate, disassociate. It was so crazy.
God.
So now Breeze can do it.
Balances where you're sure the one person submitting is the correct person and all the rest, I assume.
Yes, it was changing that form from paper just to an online application that is
Was huge, huh?
sent in. And then additionally, something that just happened was an email notification to our licensees and applicants when they become licensed and renew their license. There's an email notification saying, congratulations, it's gone through. Here's important information, including about our inspections program and other information.
Checklist.
Yep.
Oh, that's terrific. Does it do the other basic reminders of the number of CE units you need per year, et cetera, et cetera?
I don't believe it includes the CE required, but that's something we can add.
I mean, I just wondered, but that's great.
It's a general catch-all saying if you need to update your address, do that online. It's just a reminder of what Breeze can do for the licensee.
And for that initial license, they don't have to do the CE, so it might cause more confusion putting it on for the initial.
I was using that as an example.
Yeah.
That's great. I'm sure people really appreciate getting some confirmation that everything's in and in order and all the rest from the board. It's great.
It's nice, I just did it.
Oh, yeah, okay, great, it works.
Yeah, and when you go to apply and do your application, the CE stuff comes up immediately, so it tells you what you need and asks if you've done that. So it's pretty clear when you're putting your renewal application on.
No more giant stacks. Well, in that respect, you have
Yes.
giant stacks elsewhere.
I think that's the last of our giant stacks of things.
That's one of them, yes.
But they're not, oh, okay. One of them. And then I did notice, I mean, before, the receptionist, we had 3 vacancies. One was the, blood bank, but now, again, we have 4 vacancies. Is that way, basically to take your org chart? Because that receptionist did not.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct. So it's the one in enforcement.
Okay. Do anyone else have questions for Tim on the admin report? Looking up here, don't see hands. All right, thank you very much. All right, now back to the agenda. Let me see, where are we? Oh, my report, which is very short. Like me, haha. Anyway, just really quick, very good. I know, I'm tired, clearly. I have really great news to report, first and foremost, that our executive officer, our wonderful Jessica Seiferman, finally received her well-deserved, oh, I'm sorry, Jamie, see a hand.
Wondered if you needed to do public comment?
Oh, you're very good. Thank you, former president. I forgot all about that. Just moving right through it. Yes, do I have any public comment in the room for the administrative report? Seeing none, moderator, would you please open it up? Gosh, I apologize. I really am tired.
No worries, it's early. This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I have opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment for agenda item 16, please use the Q&A feature located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or use the raise hand function. And audio-only participants can use the raise hand by pressing *3 on their device. I'll pause a moment to allow the public time to access those features and submit their requests. All right, and seeing none, would you like me to close that Q&A feature?
Yes, please. Thank you. All right, now back to my very short report. So as I was saying, Jessica finally received, and I again want to thank DCA, Kim and Christine Lally and the rest of the crew for helping us push this through. Her very well-deserved pay increase that we requested last year during the evaluation process. And it was, and it ended up being retroactive to March, which is also terrific. One of the questions I had been pushing for was like, can it be retroactive? So I don't know if they did that for everyone, but they did it for Jessica, and that's our most important. So again, thanks to DCA leadership also for helping. Now we move into this week, or today at the end of this meeting, move into our executive officer evaluation for this year. And, you know, partially part of what we'll talk about when we promote it, whatever we do, is just say we hope you will, you know, deal with this one as well, since you just, even though you just approved the one we did a year ago. So Jessica, Christina, Dr. Bradbury, and I continue to meet weekly on our weekly update calls, and we really appreciate, I know Christina does too, Jessica taking the time. Often these are hour-long calls, and there's just so much to keep us up to speed on the day-to-day activities of the board. I know it's made me a better board member, and I hope president, and just want to thank you for your time on that, because we get a lot out of it. ISN, DCA continues to do their workshops, their webinars on board leadership. There have been 2 since our last meeting in July. I was at both of them, and Jessica is usually on. And they're very helpful as usual, and they continue. Unfortunately, I was a little under the weather. We had and Jessica will address this in her outreach report, I believe, but the Board of Governors CVMA meeting was in Palm Springs on the 30th, I think, of September, and I was scheduled to go, but then I was sick and couldn't fly, so Jessica did it on her own, and I'm very sorry that I missed it, because I enjoy those meetings, just the networking and everything else. Typically, our report is not, Jessica gives her report, and they ask a few questions. It doesn't take a lot of time, but it's just useful, I think, for us to be present and be part of their operation, and be part of their dialogue anyway. Finally, since we're going to be electing new officers at this meeting, I just want to thank everybody and say what an honor it's been to be serve as president this year and vice president for the last couple of years. It's really, truly been an honor, and I have loved serving on this board for so many reasons, including getting to know so many people that care about animals, veterinary profession, public service, and I have a couple more meetings left before I go bye-bye, but I just want to thank everybody and really have loved it. So, and that's really my report, as I say, short. So now, let's take public comment? Yes, we do. Okay, public comment in the room, no public comment. Oh, yeah, member comments, yes, you shouldn't need any.
Kathy, I just wanted to thank you. You've done an amazing job, and having you at the head of the group has just been invaluable. I mean, your knowledge of how the government runs and legislation, and your networking that you do, I think has really moved our board forward really in ways that couldn't have happened without you. So I just wanted to thank you for all of your hard work. I know you're really busy in this election cycle year as well, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll open it to public comment, and again, there's no one in the room, moderator, so you can take it away.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on agenda item 14, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen or use the raise hand function. And audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. And it doesn't look like there are any requests for public comment, so would you like me to close that Q&A feature?
Yes, yes, please. Thank you very much. Excuse me, now we'll move into a much more meaty report, I am sure, from Jennifer Laredo for RVT.
I'll try not to make it too meaty, but I think we will begin by wishing, bendy, yes, I'll make it bendy. Wishing a happy Veterinary Technician Week to all RVTs. For those who don't know, the third week of October is National Veterinary Technician Week for credentialed veterinary technicians. And the theme this year was Veterinary Technicians' Resilience is the Heart of Veterinary Medicine. And there was a quote posted on NAVTA's website by their president, and I thought it was so fantastic. I stole it and I'll read it, but I'm giving credit to the NAVTA president. Resilience won't make your problems go away, but being resilient can give you the ability to see past your problems and better handle stress and change. This incredible asset makes veterinary technicians the heart of veterinary medicine. So happy Vet Tech Week to all credentialed veterinary technicians. And just a short summary of the contributions of RVTs to the Veterinary Medical Board. A new MDC chair was elected. RVT Leah Schufelt is the new chair of the MDC, so thank you, Leah. And we were discussing hospital inspections. There are currently 5 RVT hospital inspectors. We do have 3 DVMs, but with the incredible workload everybody in the veterinary field is experiencing, only 1 is currently available. So thank you to those 5 RVTs who are keeping the hospital inspection program alive. Just a couple more topics. I wasn't sure if I was going to mention this, but it wouldn't be me if I didn't mention something that was controversial. So we've been discussing RVT retention and burnout for quite a while, and that's not just RVTs. We know that every member of the veterinary team is overwhelmed, overworked. But this just came across my radar. Apparently, a couple of years ago, the AVMA did a study on suicide statistics in veterinary medicine, and it was the first time I had ever seen technicians specifically included. It was veterinarians versus veterinary staffing. This one separated veterinarians versus veterinary technicians versus veterinary staff. And vet techs are at 5 times the risk of dying by suicide than the general population. So with the theme of Vet Tech Week being resilience, I want to once again remind all vet techs out there and every member of the veterinary team to practice self-care. Another statistic that was published recently was that 50% of vet techs burn out of the profession in their first 5 years. So when we are talking about staffing shortages and burnout, that's something that's very important. Some of the reasons that vet techs do burn out in the first 5 years are much like our executive officer. They are overworked and underpaid. So we just want to remind everybody that we are trying to get more RVTs out there to help with the staffing shortages, but it is difficult. They're leaving the field faster than we can replenish them. And that is not good for consumer protection because we have less qualified staff taking care of the animals. And along those lines, one common theme that I am hearing from several vet tech programs, I have mentioned in the past that they're having trouble retaining faculty and even program directors. And one more recent thing that I've heard is the AVMA has come out with the rabies vaccine mandate for RVT students. And some of the programs are struggling with that because the vaccine, it's a series of 2, and I believe they're $600 to $800 each. So if even one student
Wait, they want everybody to have the vaccine?
Yeah, every student. And if even one student is not vaccinated, they have to have a rabies mitigation plan so that every animal that student comes into contact with, including at their externship sites, has to be vaccinated, which is very difficult. So the reason that impacts the programs is some of the programs are concerned that their accreditation will be impacted, either put on probation or pulled. And one issue is we did hear Nancy Ehrlich from CARVTA mention yesterday, something that I've mentioned in the past, the CVTEA, which is the AVMA program that oversees all of the RVT programs, doesn't have any representation as far as RVTs, they're all from other parts of the country. So there is, I looked up the recent roster, there is one veterinarian who's on the committee, but we don't have any RVTs from the West Coast on that committee. The problem is we can't expect the AVMA to just find somebody. We need people from California applying for those positions, and I don't believe the positions pay. When I try to recruit people to apply for anything board or MDC, the first question is how much does it pay? So that would be wonderful if we could get somebody, but the rabies vaccine mandate is something that I'm hearing some concerns about, and it's mostly the cost. The community colleges and the universities, it takes a little while to implement any type of change. So you can't just start budgeting for things. It takes a couple of years to make any type of change with that. So that's just something, again, we don't have any control over what the AVMA does with their regulations, but it's something that I wanted everyone to be aware of. And along that line, I did mention this before, but with the shortage of RVTs, I would like the board to maybe consider exploring some other pathways to licensure. I know in the past we did have pathways for somebody who's been working in the field for several years and has a bachelor's degree in a related field, animal science, something related. Okay. But we are experiencing that shortage. And I know we did have that one-time limited eligibility window where it was almost a grandfather clause. Somebody who had been working in the field but had never taken any courses was allowed to sit for the exam. And I did send a very nasty email to the VMB long before I was on them. I wasn't happy with that because there was no education. I don't think you can replace education or hands-on experience, but I thought this might be a happy medium, that they do have some education in a related field along with that hands-on experience working under the direct supervision of a veterinarian. So just some things I wanted to mention, but again, happy RVT week, and everybody please take care of themselves, and let's try to get as many vet techs in the field and keep them as we can. So now, any questions?
Thank you. I have a couple. On the recruitment, I assume CVMA knows of these openings and can help recruit or post, well, and CarvDev, right, on the, so I'm sure, should we reach out to them? They're not here today, but on these openings that you were talking about, Jennifer.
Yeah, I had mentioned them in my report. I think that would be great if both CarvDev and CVMA could start putting the word out as well. I know not everybody watches our meetings. And I think social media is a great tool. Yeah, I see a few that are on the call, but oddly they have things to do other than watch these meetings. Who knew? Who knew? So if the problem is watching to see when these positions open, because there's not always an opening. So if they could blast it out on their social media, I think that would be very helpful. We do want representation. We were so excited to get Dr. Nunez on that AAVSB committee. Now maybe we can focus on getting some RVTs onto the CVTEA who are from California.
Okay, I think that's a great idea, and we could focus on that. I had just from a public perspective, this AVMA mandate about the rabies vaccines, is that because of insurance reasons, because of obviously health concerns for students, or what was the reasoning behind this? And this goes to all accredited RVT schools starting at entry level, first class of RVT students, they need to get it?
Yeah, so it was, I couldn't give you their reasoning. They do have a frequently asked question document, and they continuously reference the CDC recommendations. And there was one FAQ that I read that asked, what about a person who is just observing and isn't in the program? And it sounds like somebody who is enrolled in an RVT program. So maybe other students don't have to, but the RVT students do. I wasn't clear on that. And teaching in a program, I had heard about it, but I'm not a program director, so it didn't impact me the way it did some other programs. I'm on several advisory committees, and that's when I started to hear more about it. So I just wanted it to be on our radar. But what I kept telling Jessica, I kept throwing up my shoulders. There's nothing we can do. We don't control what the AVMA, the regulations that they set. So it's just something, maybe we can ask some more questions, but I did want everybody to know about that.
Yeah, it just seems so onerous, and I'm sure they're not covered by any kind of health insurance either, because I'm sure it's elective, but anyway, all right, that was just my questions, but thank you very much. Christina, I think she was going for the mic, so.
Hi, thank you for the report. That is I didn't realize that about the rabies, and we were looking at that just for travel purposes, for my husband, and I saw how expensive it was. So that's disappointing, because that's a lot of money and going to be difficult unless there's some way to get it subsidized for the schools. But aside from that, I could see you, Jennifer, next year when your term runs out, as a representative, like Mark, as the RVT representative for, is it the National Association? What is it? The NAV that doesn't have the RVTs? What?
Yeah, it's a national.
Yeah, so I know that you don't have enough to do, and we would like to. I think you would be great on that. So I don't know. I don't know if you'd consider something like that, but you would be fantastic in that role. So
Thank you for your faith in me. I'm sure we can find plenty of RVTs who are much better than I am. I would be happy to be a last resort, but that's one of the issues is we have so many amazing RVTs, but they work multiple jobs and it's hard to get them to go do things that when they're not getting paid for it. So I know personally, I told my horse he needs to get a job. His medication is costing me so much. I need to get another job. And a lot of us are in that boat, but I do thank you, Dr. Bradbury, for your confidence.
Dr. Nolan.
Well, was a long time ago, but I'm just going to throw it out because it used to be, and this was again a long time ago, that we could work with the county health department and they would actually buy the rabies vaccines and we could send our technicians in to get those, and they were a lot less expensive than any other private physician would have been. So, but I don't know if the county health would do that anymore. It just, that was the way we got around, not around it, we were able to do it economically in the past.
I know personally, I had my rabies vaccines back in 2005 when I was working in shelter medicine, and obviously the county paid for it. I had a series of 3 at that time, so now it's 2, so they're saving money that way, I suppose. But that would be something worth exploring because rabies is a public health issue, so it would make sense that the county health department would want to support that.
And they weren't free, but they were a whole lot less expensive. I remember that.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions for Jennifer before I go to public comment? Okay, public comment in the room. Seeing none. Moderator?
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A feature located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or use the raise hand function. And it looks like we do have a request from an individual logged in as Grant Miller. Mr. Grant Miller, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 15-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device. All right, you are unmuted.
Miller, CVMA. We're happy to help the board disseminate information about open positions. We actually already do that. If we get any kind of a notice emailed from the board, we will just automatically put it into our weekly e-blast, which goes out to 8,000 of our members. And we also are very active in the CVTEA program in trying to find inspectors for, well, they're not inspectors, but people to visit the schools, the RVT schools, to help them, keep their accreditation. We spend a significant amount of time trying to find people to do that. So we're definitely on board for the effort to try to enlist folks. We're always receptive if the board wants to email us requests. We always are happy to incorporate in what they want that way. But automatically, as a rule of thumb, if we receive something from the board, like an email blast, we automatically put that into our blast, which goes out to our folks every Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you, Grant. I didn't realize you were there because I can't see who's there, so thank you. Anybody else, moderator?
This is the moderator. Looks like we do have another request from individual logged in as Nancy Ehrlich. Nancy, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 15-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device. Right, you are unmuted.
Okay, I just wanted to state that CARFTA also is more than happy to advertise these sort of things when we are informed that the positions are available. We also send out email blasts to our members. So we're definitely interested in getting an RVT on the CVTEA from California. So anytime that there is an opening, please make sure that we know about it. That would be it. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
All right, this is the moderator. It appears there are no further requests for public comment. Would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you very much. All right, now, excuse me. Excuse me. Now we'll go back to the executive management reports, and we will bring up on licensing. We'll keep Tim Rada here.
Thank you. For the examination and licensing updates, we're starting with the ICVA updates, which of course were touched on yesterday with you being appointed as the board chair for the ICVA. This was of course important because you're the first public member to be a board chair, so congratulations again. And furthermore, there's through the ICVA, there's nominations for positions on their assessment development committee that have closed now, but you can see the requirements that were put out for that. There was a grant that was offered last year, and the final letters were due a couple days ago on October 15th. This is for the supporting research into assessment of practices in veterinary medical education. And then, of course, their most recent veterinary assessment in focus newsletter was released on September 26th. Those are the ICVA updates that I've gotten from their website and from their emails. For their examination statistics now, the NAVLE has not been taken yet. That will be scheduled for November, December, and once I have that examination results, I'm hoping for the January meeting they'll be presented. Otherwise, they'll be at the next one. The VTNE exam results for the July and August administration are available for your review there. There was a 46% pass rate for California candidates. The national pass rates, you can see below, for the July-August was 61%. So we are a little bit below the national, about 15% below the national pass rate. The RVT schools are on our website. Their pass rates are on our website. And for the licensing updates, again, as mentioned, for Breeze, the association disassociation was the big quality of life improvement for our licensees. And then for upcoming Breeze improvements, we still have a dual application process for our university license, similar to what was done previously for RVTs and veterinarians. We're going to combine that into a single application. So instead of having an exam or initial application for review and then a license application, we're just going to push them together into one.
That'd be good.
And for our performance measures, you can see them below. It's, again, this is a cyclical process of applications coming in when we have examinations that are available or examinations that have been taken and graduation season. So we had an increase in RVT because the VTNE was taken in July and August, and a decrease in veterinarian because we're past the graduation cycle. So this is kind of following the trends that I've seen. Our VACSPs are also trailing off a little bit, but that's to be expected as we're leaving these summer work months. So we'll see what happens. This is just a continue to monitor kind of assessment I'm doing, and I think we're going to be doing this for a couple of years now since we've changed our processes, and we'll be able to get more consistent data after COVID. Do you have any questions for me on these?
Dr. Bradbury?
I just had, I didn't understand on the, on page 3, the, how it was it says veterinary licenses and then veterinary licenses California, just because I felt like they would all be in California. So I just wondered how it was broken out.
Yes, so you're talking about the chart at the bottom? Yeah. So the two numbers include, the first number includes all renewable licenses, which include expired licenses and those who are, I believe.
So just real quick, there was a point in time, I think that one of the board members years ago wanted to know the difference between all active licensees, which could include those who are out of state, and then they wanted to know those who are in California. Okay. So that's the difference in the breakdown.
Okay, okay, so there's roughly 1,200 people outside of California that also hold like a dual.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I asked that one a long time ago. It was like, I didn't get it either.
And actually, I think that's a good time just to let you guys know, similar to what you see on the enforcement report, you see how we're looking at revising how we're displaying data to make it make a little more sense and also match how we're reporting to our annual report that we do for DCA and the agency in the governor's office, and also our sunset report. There's a lot of entities that we report to, and oftentimes we call it the same thing, but they're pulling different parameters, so the numbers are all over the place. So we're working on moving to where it's all the same, and so you'll see a little difference of how this population and our performance measures for licensing are displayed in future reports.
Okay.
Yes, we want to bring consistency so everybody gets the same actual data.
I had one more question. I thought that the students at like vet schools and stuff took their tests usually in April, but the way that the pass rates and the number of people that took the tests displays here. Where are we?
Are you talking about the Navely ones?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, it looks like more people took them in November, December. Was that just a COVID thing? And then
I can explain some of that
on
Navely. Well, first of all, there's the two testing windows, the spring and people can test before, of course, they graduate, and then the fall. And usually the December window is the bigger window. It's post-graduation. It's interesting, but also we did have, because of COVID, there are a number of retakes where people took it, excuse me. So, and there's different, and the reason that pass rates are confusing, and we're going to talk about this more detailed, is we talk about pass rates in buckets, like criterion students. A criterion is a senior student from an accredited school. Their pass rates are quantified, and then a non-senior from a non-accredited school or a retake, excuse me. And those are often lower pass rates typically because that's what they are. So, I mean, it's hard these things ebb and flow, but I think COVID did have some testing center places and some more retakes than in the past.
Okay, thanks.
But anyway, that's generally it.
And that's what I found as well is, since I've been here, the primary testing window is the November, December, and then the retakes tend to be the April window. So the retakes generally have a lower pass rate, just in terms of examination analysis. So that's why there will be a drop there.
We have a very detailed spreadsheet when we get reports at ICVA. I will say that on the small ruminant, we ended up getting 5 applications for small ruminant, which is huge for a unique, and we've seated that person, so that's great. So we have another expert in the fold. Any other questions for, excuse me, Tim? Oh, I just had one, I'm sorry. On the Breeze Fix-It tickets, and this could cross over to administration, how are we doing with those? Are the team in Breeze relatively quick? Is there a backlog? Are you feeling like
we're switching to a new process where it's not just we submit a ticket, then kind of talk to one person, then another person while our change gets implemented. We've moved into an agile process where everybody is involved throughout the entire process. So I'm very hopeful that this will make our breeze improvements come out more quickly. It's also my understanding that our OAS is working with developer to have our developer work more on our tickets to get our backlog moved through quickly.
We still have a pretty decent
We
backlog.
do, yes.
That's too bad. I know you have tried to implement changes as you've gotten to know Breeze better and as its technological sort of
Yeah, and it's
strength has
interesting to
improved,
see
but
the tools are there. We just need to use them more efficiently.
okay. All right, thank you. Any other questions? Oh, Jennifer, I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you. I have a comment and a question. So, Tim, I did notice on the VT&E pass rates that are posted on the board website, it does have it broken down by fiscal years, but I don't know if there's a way we can get the date, like the date last updated put on there. I print these out and I have a pile of them and I'm struggling to know which one is the most current. And then also I did notice that there's a typo on fiscal year 22-23. It says that Mount San Antonio College has 757% pass rate. Well, I don't doubt that's possible.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, we can check on that.
I will
but
get
if we
that.
could have like a last updated would be great. And then also, I just wanted to point out the VT&E national pass rate is 46%. It looks like we're sitting California at about 63%. So while I'm happy that we're so far above the national pass rate, I'm really concerned about the national pass rate overall. Again, that's not our issue, I guess you would say, but I strongly believe it's related to COVID with all of the challenges of trying to get to school, all of the life changes. So I still think we should have some sort of a disclaimer that, you know, all of these students survived a global pandemic and just did the best they could with that. So that was my comment.
Thank you. Thank you. Good catch on that 700%. Anyone for the board? Okay. Then I'll open it to public comments in the room. Seeing none, I will go to the moderator. And this is again on the licensing and exam report.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I have opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or use the raise hand function. I'll go ahead and pause a moment to allow the public time to access that Q&A panel and submit their requests. All right, and seeing none, would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you very much. All right. Now we will move on to enforcement and bring our team, who are all here, Matt McKinney, Patty Rodriguez, and Robert Stephanopoulos. Come on up.
Hi, board members. Can you hear me?
I think so. Is that the mic's on?
Looks like it is. Okay, just a little closer. There we go. So just to start with some staff updates for you, during the last meeting, we reported that we had extended offers for the 2 remaining limited term vacancies to analysts. They were ultimately accepted, and the new analysts began employment with the board on August 1st, 2022. The first of those new analysts was Brett Jarvis, who is new to state service. He's also a U.S. Navy reservist, a chief electronics technician, so we're happy to have Brett here, and we also thank him for his service. Second was Haley Bernard. We actually, unfortunately, recently were notified that Haley was offered and accepted a permanent appointment with the California Department of Real Estate, so we're working on recruiting and recruiting to fill a vacancy now. Since the last meeting, Kathy Budd, the probation monitor, also returned her previous appointment at the California Public Employees Retirement System. So the vacant position for that was posted on September 27th, and I'm anticipating having interviews next week for the probation monitor position. We're also continuing to our recruitment efforts for the enforcement technician position. We had interviews on September 30th and October 5th. We actually extended an offer to someone on October 7th, and they're starting work with us on November 1st. So happy to report that position is finally being filled. For inspections, we resumed routine inspections with conservative number of inspections assigned to the inspectors so that we can monitor the workload and measure how efficiently staff can process the subsequent workload that comes from the inspections. We also hired an additional inspector in Southern California as well as in the East Bay. As far as the mobile app, just a small update there. The OIS Office of Information Services Chief Information Officer announced that DCA would be exploring other platforms with greater technology to meet the needs of the participating programs and other DCA programs in the future. So we don't anticipate that going live for, at least another year or two at the earliest.
A little bit. Can I, on the mobile app, just because I was going to ask it after, I should have waited probably, but just while you're right there.
Yeah.
So I'm a little confused. I know we have the grant situation and we're working with the IT folks. They wanted to explore other options internally before we sort of outsourced it or did whatever I'm just wondering where we are. You worked so hard to get that grant.
Yeah. So we did get the $600,000 for the mobile app, and when we pitched it with the information that the platform with Acela was already being used and proven with the Bureau of Cannabis Control. Shortly after we were given the grant, actually, I think it was a couple months later, we heard from OAS that actually they weren't actively using the app. They had the capability to do it, but they hadn't really fully developed it and started using it because they were working on other modules within the platform. And so because of that, they're asking for us to look at all options out there and see if there is a better option. My concern, obviously, is what that does to the timeline of things and basically starting over and writing new requirements and all of that, where Acela might still be the best option. But I let them know, I think it's good to see other options, because if there's something out there that works better, I don't want us to overlook that. But I did say that it can't extend it forever. I agreed to let's spend 2 months in looking for other options. Mm-hmm. And if we don't find a better option within that 2 months, then we need to proceed with Acela. It's not ultimately up to me, because there's 2 other boards involved too, but I think that they share the same concerns about the delay in time frame and looking at all these other options. So I am communicating regularly with OIS and letting them know that we need to move this forward. But it's been a slight delay because of that.
Okay, thank you. I did notice possibly it was the North Carolina thing, they talked about a particular software package that they used.
Yeah, they used ThoughtSpan, and it looks like it's very similar to what we're asking for. Okay. And so when we do a follow-up meeting with North Carolina, we plan to ask more questions about that system that they're using.
And maybe get something from ThoughtSpan directly. Okay, mm-hmm. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no problem at all. So going on to our intake numbers, the first 3 months of fiscal year 2022-23, we were just over the 10-day performance target with average of 18 days. We also anticipate with the filling of the enforcement technician position, that'll be closer to the target and hopefully back under the target once they're trained and on board and everything. We also saw a significant decrease in the number of unlicensed complaints received during that time, making up only 4% of the complaints received during the reporting period. So that's, I think, encouraging a little bit. Negligence and/or incompetence allegations represent the majority of complaints, and they rose from 38% during the final quarter of FY 21-22 to 52% for the first quarter of 22-23. As far as investigations, we started the fiscal year with 3,856 pending cases. And with the hiring of the 4 limited term analysts now complete, the enforcement unit has elected to meet weekly. So we're collaborating and ensuring all analysts and managers are involved in dissemination of new procedures, as well as promoting opportunities for comprehensive training of the team. We also have approximately 650 pending cases over 3 years old at the time of the report. And we've seen increases in closures with the training of the new staff too, where we were higher in August and September than I think we have been in years past. So we have completed investigations projected to be over 43% higher than they were last fiscal year. And one thing that I wanted to talk about too was in September, we got the opportunity to attend the Council on Licensure Enforcement and Regulation CLEAR's National Certified Investigation and Inspector Training. It's an NCIT program. It's a two-part 3-day course that covers the topics and subjects including professional conduct, principles of administration and law, the regulatory process, the investigative process, evidence collecting, interviewing techniques, investigator safety, report writing, and testifying in administrative and criminal proceedings. So it was just a really, I think it was a really great opportunity for us all. We learned a lot. It was just getting the skills that we all need to have as analysts to do our jobs efficiently. And there was a basic course and a specialized course, and so basically you can't take specialized unless you've taken the basic course and passed an exam at the examination at the end of the course with I think higher than 70%. But everyone who was initially enrolled in basic was also enrolled in specialized, and that session is scheduled for November 7th through 9th next month. So we're really excited about that and wanted to thank Jessica for getting us in there. She got us all in at once, so it's kind of cool because we haven't really collaborated and been in person all together since the pandemic started, but this was, I was in the basic course, and there's probably, I just want to say 18 analysts in there with me, so just to have everyone in there in the same place, the same time, learning the same thing is really what they needed, especially since DCA hasn't had the Enforcement Academy in quite some time. It's kind of supplemented that for them, so really happy about that.
No, that was huge, and I saw it in your report. And does that conference take place regularly? And Jessica, you just figured it out and reached out and got our folks in? Or is this
No, so since I've been with DCA for almost 15 years now, this is only the second time that this has been an option for us, which is why it was really important for me to send our entire team, because I don't know when that's going to happen again. Hopefully with this, because I do think with Kim's team, they're putting a lot more emphasis on training and enforcement. I know she is looking at the Enforcement Academy itself as well that DCA offers, but I think this was such a great opportunity, and this is why we encouraged all of our staff to go. And if we felt that we had some office technicians who we also want to grow within the board, we sent a couple of our office technicians as well. It's a cost, right? But to me, it's a much needed investment into our employees.
No, just the best practices that you can gather from other.
Exactly, and
huge.
And they teach nationwide, so it's national best practices is really good. And I think just the fact that, like I mentioned, we were all there in person, so the learning aspect was good, but then also, we got to go to lunch together as a group and things like that, and I think just the team building there is something that we've really been missing since the pandemic started, so I was happy about that. And then just some other figures, I guess I should have went to these before that NCIT thing, but we issued 5 citations in the first quarter and referred 28 cases to the Attorney General's office. Extrapolate over a year-long period, we're on pace to nearly double our referrals from the prior fiscal year. For that expert witness program, the Multidisciplinary Committee's Complaint Audit Subcommittee met in September to discuss some of the goals of the subcommittee. During the meeting, the subject matter experts, or SMEs, recruitment, training, and case review were covered. Board SMEs were provided with a set of real-world scenarios crafted by the subcommittee to enhance the training provided by the Medical Board of California. SMEs were asked to review these scenarios and opine on whether a deviation from the standard of care occurred. The resulting feedback will use to strengthen future training. The subcommittee has also drafted an initial reference list for discussion that took place during the MDC meeting on Tuesday. I'd also like to report that the board's contract with 11 new experts since the previous board and MDC meeting, so hopefully some of those bottlenecks are going to start loosening with more experts available to review cases. Then lastly, in probation, I just wanted to report that we've had 3 licensees begin their probation and 5 completed their probation since the last period. That leaves 57 total probationers. 12 of those are tolling. We're currently auditing files of those who are tolling their probation to ensure they're in compliance with disciplinary orders and probation requirements which are not tolled even when the probation as a whole may be. So other than that, we have some updates on the SPCA costs and some enforcement stats and charts for you guys. So be happy to take any questions.
So before we go to questions, I just want to go through the stats that were provided. I think it was clear from the last meeting that the way that we were displaying it before was not very clear, and it was harder to disseminate any kind of improvement that was happening. And so I just wanted to highlight a few things from there. When you look at consumer complaints and intake complaints received, there was, in prior years, as you all recall, there was a huge spike starting in 2016 when the board went live in Breeze, and then it continued to increase after that. But it looks like it's starting to level out to where it was $14.99, $15.19, and if you flatline what happened the first quarter, we're on track to do $14.96. So it's kind of leveling out there, which I think is a good sign because that can help us really estimate what we are able to accomplish in the future years. Another thing I wanted to just highlight is when you see investigations open and closed, you'll see for that first year that we're reporting 2020, 2021, for investigations closed was 560, and then it jumped up to 1297. Right now we're on track to do 1852 for closed, and so that's a huge difference there. And I think it's definitely to the team that we have in place, and they're really getting to know their stuff, and I think we just have the team to do that. When it comes to though the pending cases we have right now, right now we're focusing on the cases closed that are over 3 years old. Obviously, that's a huge backlog to us, and so what we are though is we're still closing. We're focusing on those, but by focusing on those, we're also focusing on the newer cases that might be related to them. And so when you look at cases closed within the time frame and the complete intake and investigations, there's right now 185 cases that we closed that were over 3 years old, which is obviously higher than the 72, and it's going to be more than the 530 that we closed. But also we're closing more newer cases than the older cases. So we closed 278 cases that are less than 3 years old, which is, so I think there was an understanding that we're only focusing on older cases. When you see the data, we're actually closing more newer cases, but we're also closing the older cases. So,
And many of those closed cases are closed without discipline as well, right?
Correct.
They just complete and everyone is notified. Thank you. Do we want to do questions for Matt's part of the report first, or wait till the whole report's done? What do you think?
That was the whole report.
Oh, sorry, I was expecting you guys.
We're just here for more.
You're just here to be.
Yeah, they'll answer
pretty
questions related to
I
their
see, got
areas.
it. Sorry about that.
Dr. Nolan has her hand up.
Yep. Dr. Nolan.
Thank you very much for your report and for all the hard work that you all three do, and your staff as well. I'm a little confused, and so just if you could help me out, I don't quite understand the summary of enforcement activity chart. When it says year-to-date 2021 and then year-to-date 21-22, for instance, at the very top, is that consumer complaints received 1499? Is that year-to-date? I don't quite, is that for the whole year, or is that in comparison to the year-to-date after July, August, and September of 22-23? In other words,
I see what you're saying. I think we can just make it, instead of year-to-date, it should be total, because that's for the total of the fiscal year for 2020, 2021, and then the total for 21, 22.
Okay, great. That helps me. I thought that's what it was, but I thought I'd better just clarify that. And then also, I have a question. It just help me with my math, but if I recall, we had over 100 probationers 3 or 4 years ago, it seems like. And so that number has really become more manageable, looks like. But when you say that there are 33 probationers that you're, investigating due to lack of compliance, is that 33 of the total 57? And, that seems like an awfully high percent if you subtract the tolling, or does that include the tolling?
Yeah, you're correct. It is 33 of the 57. So that's like, some of the probationers obviously have more than one complaint since there's 86 total, but 33 of the 57 do have complaints. And as you also mentioned, 12 of them are told. So there's some of the complaints could be filed against people that are told, from past and just haven't been investigated fully yet. So, but yeah, it is definitely a high percentage.
Yeah, from my perspective, those are fairly fairly important because of consumer.
They're high priority.
Yeah, these people are already on probation since they've potentially violated Practice Act, so yeah, they're definitely higher risk or higher concern than just a normal complaint, I would say.
Okay.
And
I
they
just
are
wanna-
expedited because they're on probation. So
Right.
we are working those quicker.
Got it. That makes sense. That makes me happy to hear. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. And actually, I've noticed that all along. We've always had a fairly high percentage of the probationers that have current additional complaints to them. So you guys, I guess that makes sense, human nature-wise, but I assume that most of those complaints are getting investigated very quickly, as you say.
Right, yeah.
And
The probation monitor, he's on top of it. I mean, when the complaints come in, as far as just getting the documents, reaching out, getting it to the point where we know what happened and if this person really, you know, if the probation needs to be looked at further or if, you know, they're safe to continue practicing, it's definitely a priority of ours.
I had go ahead, Christina. Oh, mine was just a random question on the decrease of unlicensed practice complaints that you noted in your report. And I wondered, we had a real spike in them during, and maybe it was COVID related, I don't know, people doing, I don't know, but I'm just wondering if anyone has any ideas about why it's gone down. Yeah, okay, just interesting. Okay.
I don't have any idea. I mean, I would
speculating.
maybe, yeah. I mean, I would speculate too that maybe because we're taking action against unlicensed people, that maybe word is getting out, or maybe there's more aware of it.
I'd also think that maybe since clinics are generally not allowing people in for the period of the pandemic, maybe people were reporting like, I don't know who practiced on my animal. Whereas now, if they're, you know, in the clinic, it's more obvious that there was a licensed person that, you know, I don't know. Like I said, it's just speculation, but that's something that I think would maybe attribute to it. Because I think a lot of times we did get a lot of complaints that I wasn't allowed to go inside. You know, I had to drop my pet off, and so that kind of, I think, maybe leads to more unlicensed concerns from the consumers.
But unlicensed activities are what we code them, not what the client.
That's how they file them, right? I mean, they file them against. How the complainant files. Right, they'll file it as an unlicensed complaint, or they'll say like, I went to this facility and a person without a license practiced on my pet, you know, so we code those as unlicensed, yeah. But I think we also added that in Breeze where they have the option to select unlicensed as a license type, so.
Okay, I just figured it would always kind of spike up because of the internet and everybody searching and people advertising stuff that they aren't licensed to do, and et cetera, that, you know, we'd always have a pretty steady flow of unlicensed complaints, but I didn't realize they're called unlicensed because that's how the complainant determines it at the beginning.
I think they do kind of ebb and flow at times. I mean, we're looking at 3 months compared to 3 months, so it's, you know, they could just be anomical in either of those 3 months, you know, so I think if you look at a full year, that's going to give you a better idea of what the percentage was than just comparing like the last 3 months to this 3 months, you know.
Well, and comparing, just if we flatline what happened in the first quarter, we're actually overall going to receive less complaints than the year prior and the year prior to that. So I think overall complaints are down, decreasing a little bit. So you're going to see a natural decrease in unlicensed practice.
Makes sense. Thank you, Dr. Bradbury.
It's so exciting to see like a positive shift. So thanks, guys. It's really encouraging. I was just wondering. I was thinking about this with the MDC discussion we were having with about the inspections and stuff. Are these ever broken out to just facilities complaints or like unsanitary conditions, or, you know, like I'm just wondering how many are strictly related to the facilities?
I think in the chart it should have minimum standards is one of the allegations, and minimum standards is typically what we would consider like minimum standards typically would be like, you know, a complaint coming in that the place is, you know, dirty or gross or unkempt or something like that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's 10% on that chart, but it also includes record keeping, so I guess it could be a little bit skewed because of that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And it looks like that's also dropped. I know that during last year, the minimum standards record keeping was a higher percentage, and negligence and incompetence seemed like it was a little lower, but it looks like it's gone back to what it was the prior couple of years, to where negligence and incompetence is back up to half the complaints. So that could have been a COVID thing as well.
Oh, I'm sorry, Doctor. I'm so busy looking at your chart here. I'm not looking. Dr. Nolan.
Just a quick question, kind of related to Christina. What the cite and fines? I think you said there were 5 or 6 in this quarter. Are any of those, do you remember, related to unlicensed activity?
I believe there's one, but it was dismissed.
Okay.
I don't-
I don't know.
That's the only one I can remember.
They're not sure, yeah, they didn't, I don't know.
Yeah, and we would post those, so those would be on our website. So if you wanted to see the details of the citations that we issued, it would be on the VMB site
I'm
under
not
the
sure
discipline.
are they there yet? Are those two current to be?
They should be. No, as soon as we issue it, it should.
The
be
citations
posted.
get posted as soon as they get sent out.
Okay, great.
Any other questions? And really great progress, and I'm very excited about that conference. I hope you picked up some interesting new ideas to help. The workload that you all have here is so much heavier than most other boards, and certainly in all other states where when we go to those AAVSB, they go, oh, yeah, we have 230 a year or something like that, and Jessica just rolls her eyes, right? So anyway, the work you're doing and maintaining the staff is terrific. I'm sorry you lost a couple of, but I know you'll be bringing them in and getting them trained.
That's expected, so.
I hate training our people and then they leave for some.
I know, that's the hardest part for real.
Yeah,
so.
I know it happens all the time.
Cool.
Anybody else for questions on enforcement before I open it to public comment? Okay.
And Dr. Nolan, I see 2 unlicensed citations, one in August and one in September.
Yeah. Does it say what they were for?
It does.
So you heard that, Dr. Nolan? I just can't tell whether people can hear. Okay.
I was actually just looking at the website at them myself, so thanks.
Cool. Okay. Great. All right. I will open it to the room for public comment. Seeing none, I will go to the moderator.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen or use the raise hand function. I'll pause a moment to allow the public time to access the Q&A panel and submit their requests. All right, and seeing none, would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Very much for all your work. Now we'll turn to Jessica for the outreach report.
So perhaps we could do the outreach and strategic plan at the same time, and then for public comment, because there's usually not public comment on these items. But really quickly on the outreach, we continue to meet with CARBDA and provide updates and ask any questions that they have. And I do want to thank them. During the last meeting, we raised concerns about the increase in complaints that we're getting with RVTs practicing independently from veterinarians and with their home practices, and they're going out and administering or dispensing medications that are not tied to a veterinarian, and there's a concern there. And so CARBDA put out an alert to all of their members, raising that concern and doing the clarification of what indirect supervision means, because there's a lot of RVTs who are adamant that they're able to do this work because the veterinarian prescribed it, and so they're just doing it based on what the veterinarian prescribed, but the veterinarians are not involved in any of that, so that doesn't really meet the indirect supervision. And so CARBDA is helping get the word out to educate the RVTs of the concern. So I just really wanted to thank them, and that was a direct result from the meetings that we're having with them. And then, as Kathy mentioned, I attended the CVMA Board of Governors meeting on September 30th, and that went well. Just provide the normal updates for them and answered any questions. And then usually during the breaks, I get the other questions about any kind of outliers for licensing, and so we were able to help there as well. Our next educational webinars are scheduled for November 10th. As of yesterday, we had 401 people register for the inspections webinar, and I think a little under for the enforcement overview webinar. But we really revised how we're going to deliver those webinars based on the feedback that we received. So we separated the two. We're going to ditch the script. We're going to kind of redo how we cite to the laws, put it at the end, because that was another comment that we got about it was too legalese. So, I mean, my team's done these types of webinars for a while when it comes to the students outreach and to the local associations. So they're fantastic, and I'm really excited for the improvements that we made with that. With the AAVSB collaboration, we talked about it quite a bit yesterday, so that continues to improve. We do have a social media campaign celebrating National Veterinarian Technician Week, so you'll see on our social media pages we put out some graphics that we worked with DCA Public Affairs Office on. And then we also distributed, which I was mentioned yesterday during the Access to Care conversation, we distributed information about the CDFA's Veterinary Medicine Loan Repayment Program.
Yes, Dr. Bradbury.
So just back to the RVT thing, this is challenging because I understand what the law says, but I do think as a consumer protection, with a consumer protection mandate, to be able to have an RVT come and give my cat insulin is better than having just a random pet sitter come and give my cat insulin when I'm away, and I'm giving my cat insulin based on a prescription, and I'm asking someone to act on my behalf to do the same thing that I have been allowed to do as an owner. And so I don't see how us, I'm wondering, is there something that we can do to clarify that and allow for that, because I think that that's better for consumers than saying they can't do it at all.
Yeah, so this is one of the things that CARVTA had asked for, is an expanded scope to allow the RVTs to be able to do these services independently from the veterinarians, and that's when the MDC looked at it and reported back to the board that in order to do that, you need legislation which expands the scope of the RVTs. Right. And so the board doesn't propose scope expansion legislation. That's for the association to do. So I think that's something that CARVTA is looking at doing.
But in the meantime, if there was some sort of a letter that the owner would write saying, you're transferring care to you to administer things the way that I do, I mean, would that cover them?
No, because right now the law doesn't allow it. And so, and I think with the board understood the concern. So they could transfer
ownership for that moment. I'm just...
There's an exemption from the practice of veterinary medicine for assisting an owner provide care, but you can't receive money for that.
Right, that's it.
And that's the critical piece here, is if you're paying an RVT to come and provide the treatment, then it's no longer exempt from the registration requirements and the supervision requirements. Yeah. So you could pay an RVT, which would really be paying the veterinary practice to have an RVT come out and administer the treatment, but that RVT has to be supervised by the veterinarian who has prescribed the treatment.
So if the RVTs were to, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to, because legislation takes a long time, and this is something that is happening right now, and I just feel, again, like consumers are better protected by having them doing the treatments than other people typically. If they were to contact the veterinarian that prescribed it and get a written signed consent form or something that said, I'm just trying to, there should be a way for them to be able to do this legally.
So if a veterinarian agrees to provide that indirect supervision, then that's fine. And what we're seeing, and when we're investigating that, sometimes the veterinarian will say, yes, I provided that indirect supervision, but more often than not, we're finding that the veterinarian didn't even know anything about it. Right. And that's where the concern is.
So perhaps the RVTs could contact the veterinarian, say, these people have contacted me for services, I'd like to administer the medications that you've asked them to administer when they are away on vacation. will you be willing to indirectly supervise me? And then that way they have a conversation, and that would be a way to do it.
I think this is a matter of contractual responsibility because, you know, you've got a veterinarian who hires an RVT, and that veterinarian provides supervision over that RVT in their practice of performance of animal health care tasks. But I think what we're really talking about is a situation where an owner goes away, they hire an RVT who's not associated for purposes of providing the animal care at the home. They're not associated with any supervising veterinarian, let alone the veterinarian who prescribed and dispensed potentially the medication. So I don't see how an RVT is going to contact, I mean, they could if the RVT is actually employed by the veterinarian who prescribed and dispensed or prescribed the treatment. That veterinarian who already has that contractual employment relationship, and they have already agreed to supervise that RVT because of that contractual relationship, that's fine. It's the situation where the RVT has no association with the veterinary practice where the medication came from or from where it was prescribed. So as a veterinarian, are you going to receive a phone call from some random person, hey, you know, your client wants me to administer this medication, you don't know me, you don't know how well I've been trained to perform these tasks, which is part of supervision requirements, duties of, you know.
The liability.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I think. It's still, I think it would be great if that could happen, and maybe on certain cases it might, but I would think a veterinarian, at the end of the day, it's probably their license if something went wrong, right? Would that be what, I assume if they authorize somebody to do it and something went wrong, it goes back to their license and possibly the RVT person, but I just find it hard to, yeah, it seems like that would be a great workaround if you could. I just don't know how many vets would do that, honestly, because of everybody's concerned about liability. You were absolutely right. It would be much better for the patient and the person, and I see, and I guess the catch-all is the payment. If I'm of RVT, which why would they, you know, they need to make more money as it is, they're working multiple jobs. If I'm doing it for a friend of mine because she's out of town and she's not paying me, there's no license probable with that. Mm-hmm. It's only if she pays me to do it that would require the legal change, I guess, a legislative change in terms of the scope, right? Yep.
That's correct.
You're right, it takes a while. It is.
And so
kind of a tough situation.
we need to be careful because the statute says one thing, and we don't want to issue any statements saying, oh, yeah, you know, that's fine. We're going to take a look at this and change it in the future because that would be an underground regulation, and we're not going to do that. But we recognize that there's an issue here. Consumers need access, you know, at their homes for provision of treatment. We do want, you know, educated, experienced RVTs to be able to do this, but we need to walk through the process to do it.
Okay. Yeah, from our board perspective, yeah, CVMA could get involved, I suppose.
It's a hard one when there's when they're already, you know, they're giving a pill that.
Yeah, or an injection, or sub-Q fluids, or any of those kinds of things.
That the owner's doing themselves.
Yeah. Jessica, I think I did have a question. Wait, hold on. Mm-hmm. Oh, this is more personal, but I've signed up for our webinars. I really can't wait, but now I may have a conflict. Are they going to be recorded? Could I look at a link later on?
Well, we're going to...
Couldn't they record?
We could, and I haven't decided whether or not we're going to record this one yet. I think we could probably record it, but we're definitely going to do it on a regular basis, so this isn't going to be the first and only time. But if we record it and then post it online, it would just fall under a different bucket of continuing education because it would be not live and interactive. You know what I'm saying?
Right. It wouldn't be an interactive, but it would be recorded. I know you have to notice people. Okay, well, that was my question for you. On the outreach report, any other questions for Jessica? We talked a lot about AAVSB earlier and the other work she's done. I see no hands from anybody. All right. Okay, you want to go on to?
I'll jump to,
plan?
yeah, the strategic plan is minor. I just think in the future, I need to do a better job of showing the updates. I think I need to do it in a different color, maybe highlight it or put it in red.
I counted them up for you.
But.
So I have notes here.
So there's quite a bit. Once again, I think for the October meeting, we'll probably, that's when we'll do a strategic plan, session to do a new strategic plan for October of 2023, because we're pretty on track to have it completed a year early.
I was going to say, of these, I went through and did it. Amazing. There's 156 complete and 31 that are complete/pending or pending. I think so. It's about an 83% completion rate as of a year early, which is really impressive, it seems to me. And we had a ton of them here, a ton of goals, way too many that any normal person would think we could achieve. So I just really want to compliment the staff and everything.
Thank you.
It's just amazing. So anyway, does anyone else have comments on strategic plan or outreach? We already did outreach, but no? So then I guess I'll go to public comment in the people, in the room. None? So moderator?
This is the moderator. This is the moderator. At the direction of the board, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen or use the raise hand function. It looks like I do have a request from Nancy Ehrlich. Nancy, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 15-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Cool. Yeah, that's great. Okay, but if she doesn't speak, that's...
Before Nancy speaks, I just want to clarify for the record that this is public comment on agenda item 16D and E.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I usually say that and I didn't.
Are you ready for me?
Yes,
Yes,
I believe
Nancy.
so.
Okay, as for, getting back to the RVTs administering home care, Section 2034 defines a veterinary assistant as means any individual who is not an RVT or a licensed veterinarian. Nowhere does it say in a veterinary hospital or in a veterinary treatment facility. So it seems to me if this really means what it says, anybody who is not an RVT or a veterinarian is a veterinary assistant, including those non-RVTs who come to your house and give your cat a pill. So they can't do it either, it seems, if they are veterinary assistants by the definition.
They're not licensed.
They're not licensed, so they means an individual who is not an RVT or a licensed veterinarian. If they are being paid, do they become a veterinary assistant?
All right, thank you. Do we have, moderator, is there another person for public comment?
This is the moderator. Appears there are no further requests for public comment. Would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, thank you very much. Now, Tara?
I just want to clarify with respect to veterinary assistance, CCR section 2036.5 authorizes veterinary assistants and VACSP holders to perform animal health care tasks in an animal hospital setting, and that's under subsection B. So that's where a VA or VACSP holder can perform animal health care tasks. This does not extend to residences. So it's not just 2034, the definition of veterinary assistant that's important. It's also the activity that's authorized under 2036.5. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think we have any other comments on that, and there's nothing to vote on those reports other than congratulate the staff. Excuse me. And now, next on our agenda is the election of the 2022 board officers. And I would like to nominate, call for nominations, and I'd like to nominate Dr. Bradbury to be the incoming president. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Dr. Nolan.
Dr. Bradbury, do you accept the nomination?
Oh, I forgot to say that.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry about that. Are there any other nominations I should ask? Okay, hearing none, I think we can move to a vote.
Let's do public comment first.
Oh, I'm sorry, public comment. Nothing in the room. Moderator, would you please open? Sorry.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on agenda item 17, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen or use the raise hand function. I'll go ahead and pause a moment to allow the public time to access the Q&A panel and submit their requests. All right, and seeing none, would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Ms. Bowler?
Aye.
Dr. Bradbury?
Yes.
Ms. Laredo?
Yes.
Dr. Noland?
Yes.
Ms. Prado?
Yes.
Ms. Berber?
Yes.
Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations. Oh, Jamie, Dr. Nolan, I see your hand.
Congratulations, Dr. Bradbury. I would like to move forward a nomination for Dr. Salacito as Vice President.
I'll second that.
Thank you. And are there any other motions or nominations, I'm sorry, for VP? She accepted. She did it on the, yeah, should I state that? I will state typically our practice, and like I said before, Dr. Salacito was planning to be here, is to ask if they will accept it. And I did ask her via email the other day when she told me she couldn't join us, and she said she would, and she wanted to thank us. So hopefully that's good enough. Okay. I hoped she would be here today, at least from her bed, but she is not feeling well from her bed. Anyway, all right. Thank you. So now I'll open this one to public comment.
Do you have a second?
Oh, I'm sorry,
Dr. Bradbury, seconded.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. No public comment in the room, so.
Any other nominations?
Oh, I thought I asked. Any other nominations for vice president? I apologize. I see no hands. Okay. There's no public comment in the room. Moderator, if you could open it up.
This is a moderator, and at the direction of the board, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on agenda item 17, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen or use the raise hand function. And it appears there are no requests for public comment. Would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you very much. And I think we can move to a vote.
Ms. Bowler?
Aye.
Dr. Bradbury?
Yes.
Ms. Laredo?
Yes.
Dr. Noland?
Yes.
Ms. Prado?
Yes.
Ms. Berber?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Congratulations, you guys. You get to be officers of the best board in the state, bar none. I think at this point, oh, Dr. Nolan, thank you. Sorry, I didn't see your hand.
I was just going to respectfully ask for a break.
Yes, I think. I will say that we are at the end of this open agenda, ready just to do the future dates, future agenda items and dates. Then we could break and go into closed session if that works for you. Although we may have to wait because we're waiting for Olivia to come. I don't know if she knows to come.
Oh, I can message her.
Okay. All right. So we'll power through this real quick. I would like a break as well. So, okay, Jessica.
Yep. So agenda item 18 just lists the board meeting dates: January 25th, 26th, April 19th, 20th, July 19th, 20th, October 18th, 19th, The featured agenda items are posted. Again, these are not including all the normal agenda items that we always have on the agenda. From the board meeting, I have a couple items that we're going to add, and see if we may propose regs for RVT scope. So the plan for that one is to be on the MDC agenda in January and hopefully have the recommendations for the April meeting. And then also adding the admin manual, potential revisions for the MDC appointments to reflect the current legislation that was just chaptered.
Thank you. And we'll continue with the blood bank or everything else. Does anyone else have any agenda items to add? Dr. Nolan?
Well, I don't have any to add, but I just feel like that's a very long list, and I'm not sure if it's reasonable to assume we can, do we need to prioritize them is what I'm saying.
So we did try to put them in order of priority. A lot of these things are already being worked on through the MDC, so it's based on when they're likely going to be able to bring it to the board. And again, I don't have specific dates to do. I think just with the order of it, we are trying to do it in order of priority. But if you have things that are maybe at the bottom that you'd like to move up, then just let us know.
Well, I guess the only other question I would have for you is about the different requirements for the different practice types. I know that's kind of been put on hold, right? Is that?
So that's under the alternate premises rulemaking, I believe, is what you're referring to for the requirements for. So it's on that list. Right now, the MDC is, as we talked about yesterday, is going to work on just restructuring the entire thing. And I do hope to have that to the board at least by the end of this year.
But it can't really be moved up because of we're having to wait a bit, right?
Yeah, because it's going to take some work to restructure the whole package.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. That was a very good point. I look at this list and go, yeah, it is a lot. Does anyone else have any questions on or adds to this? Hopefully not a lot of additions to the agenda items. All right, I will open this up to public comment. And there's no one in the room, so back to the moderator. Still no one in the room.
This is a moderator, and at the direction of the board, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or use the raise hand function. And it looks like I have a request from Grant Miller. Grant, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 15-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device. Oh, there you are.
Thank you. This question's for Jessica. Jessica, do you anticipate that any of those future meetings will have an in-person component in a location other than the Sacramento offices? Thank you.
Not currently. Currently, we plan on keeping them in Sacramento.
Thank you. Jessica, is that a DCA largely trying to do a lot of their meetings in SAC headquarters, or is that, I know we've done it traditionally for budget reasons and things like that?
It is primarily for budget, and I do think there's a lot of boards who are still doing their main ones in Sacramento for the costs associated with it. But if you guys do want to look at having them in Southern California, then that's up to the board as well. It's just a lot higher cost.
I realize that. I do also realize that we got sidetracked from the variable locations during COVID, but now that we're moving back into that, it might be something in the future to consider, because I think it does do better outreach for the local community if we can.
The other challenge too, though, is that currently only this room and the hearing room where we're located in HQ2 is set up to do this hybrid meeting.
That's
and
true.
So when you go to other locations, it's not going to be set up to do this hybrid.
Yeah, I will say that doing other boards in hotels and things like that, the cost is much higher because of this hybrid situation that we will be doing from now on, I suppose. So, all right, thank you. Tara.
Well, and you're not required to do the hybrid. If you wanted to hold a meeting in Southern California, you could do a solely in-person meeting. that that's possible, but the technology availability likely will be limited. So that may actually hamper consumer public participation. But, you know, you don't have to do the hybrid, even though it seems to be working very well for public comment.
I would always look to see, also suggest seeing what other boards are beginning to do now that things are opening back up again. It'd be worth looking at, probably. Oh, go ahead, Tara. And I know Jamie's got it.
I have a couple other clients.
I forgot.
Surprise. You guys are the only ones I'm working with right now that are doing the hybrid. Some of the other boards are starting to do more travel, but they're completely in-person meetings. There is no online component. So, you know, there is some return to normalcy, but, you know, definitely increased travel costs. And as we heard from DCA Board and Bureau Relations, the ability to change your plane schedule to come back, you know, that's going to be potentially more of a problem if the meeting ends early or if it ends late, trying to change your flight. It sounds like each individual who changes a flight and it becomes more expensive, if they don't have a good board-related reason for that, not a personal reason for that, the individual is going to be responsible for the increase in the cost of that flight. So there are a couple of new little pieces to consider with travel.
Okay, well, it does make sense that if you're going to be travel, it's probably all in person and not do the hybrid, just because of the limitation on facilities. Dr. Nolan, you probably still want to take a break.
Yeah, I know, and I'm not talking too much. I think that history has kind of shown us that having the opportunity for consumers and for stakeholders to weigh in virtually has really increased their ability to participate and to voice, you know, their opinions. And I think that's really healthy. And so if we do start moving the meeting, I think we should still try to make it a hybrid, because I think it's really been better for the consumer and for the public.
Thank you. I agree. Any other comments before we actually do?
This is the moderator. It appears there's no further public comments. Would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Sorry. I thought we had. Sorry about that. I'm glad you checked. So at this point, I think we are ready to recess the open session, and then we're going to convene a closed session and at some point.